Hello everyone, welcome back to another weekly market review for F45trading.com. We are discussing September 28th to October 2nd. See you later September, hello October. That month flew by quickly. And none too quickly. We had the US dollar that finally broke out of this range in here that we've been in. Great to see we're starting to get some trending markets again. Want to see this continue. Now, just in case you've been living under a rock or you haven't been following me long enough, you should know by now. Make sure you're checking the economic calendar on a weekly basis to make sure that you've got all your landmines accounted for on the charts and that you know what to expect when it comes in. This week is not going to disappoint. We've obviously got ECB President Lagarde speaking at 9:45 a.m. to start our Monday out for the euro. We've got a pretty quiet Tuesday with CB consumer confidence level, and then we've got some Lagarde speaking again on Wednesday. We've got the start of NFP news coming out for the dollar. We've got some Canadian news and some PMI numbers again for the dollar all mid-morning there, early morning on Wednesday. And then Thursday, we've got a lot of US dollar news as well too, with core PCE, personal spending and unemployment claims. Keep an eye on these numbers here as well too. And then going into Friday, we have the always anticipated NFP news events for the first week of the month. So, and then again, we've got the unemployment rate, which looks like it is coming down as the forecast. So just keep that in mind. But, so keep this in mind here, put it on your calendar, make sure you're aware of it. And typically the best trades are going to be early in the week on NFP weeks. So let's take a look into the chart and see what we've got. So again, we had a nice string of up days last week, which finally broke us out of this range. And now we're starting out at the time of this recording Sunday evening. And the markets have been open for a couple hours now. And we're starting to get a little bit of a retracement, which is expected. After one of these big runs in here, it is quite expected that we have had a little bit of a pullback. Now, how far do we go? That's the million-dollar question. I'm going to zoom in here just a little bit, and then I'll talk about the upper ranges here in a minute. But what I'd like to see, and what could happen, is you see the high from here, from last, what was this? Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday's trading. There is a possibility that the dollar could come and slam down into that. So just whatever the high of this is on your broker, mine is 94.10, excuse me, 94.11. Watch that area. Put a little line there in your chart, just like this on the daily. So if you do see some retracement, I would imagine that that's probably what they're going to be heading for. Now, we did have last Friday that just came down and swept below Thursday. So the likelihood of it coming all the way down here, I think, is slim. I think more than likely they'll probably just keep it within the range of Friday's candle. And eventually we'll see the low of the day form somewhere in there, and then we'll probably see price push higher. So if we break this low here, watch for that high there. I don't anticipate it falling all the way back down into the range. I think we've made a nice breakout here. We could certainly come down and test a few levels, but I don't think it's going to go too deep. So with that in mind, what I think going forward is what we'll see is a little more upside target. 95.50 is what I like on the charts, but just be aware of the upper 95.60s as well. We could get a little bit more of a stretch back down to the lows of these old candles in here. A lot of confluence at that area, and it could pull price up to there. Now, I don't know if it's just going to be a straight shot up into this range here like we had last week. It could be because it is NFP that they could chop price in here a little bit and just kind of range it back and forth. Could get some big wicks on some daily candles. So just all things to keep in mind. It is NFP week, so you definitely don't want to be trading Thursday or Friday this week. The setups become less and less probable. But between Monday and Wednesday, you're pretty much good to go. So look for a higher target. If we go below this range in here, so 93, call it about 93.90, that gets concerning. And then I think what we could see here is a potential reversal. I don't think we're going to get down in there. I think it's a very, very low probability right now. And I'll stipulate this to be very, very clear. After the November election, all bets are off, and we could be trading much, much lower on this. But until then, I think they're going to continue to run prices higher. How much higher do we go? I don't know. Again, we broke out of this range. We had a leg up. We could just bank around in here for the next month. We've only got about 4 weeks away, maybe about 5, I guess, until that federal election. And, I mean, look what they did here. They consolidated, they did this thing here for the past 2 months. So they could easily bank this thing sideways here for the next month without even blinking an eye. So just keep that in mind. But I am anticipating higher prices. Do we get up there this week or not? It is likely because it is NFP. But again, I don't think it's just going to be a couple of candles straight up. I think they'll probably slowly walk it up there. So that being said, the euro, we had a nice decline on euro. Again, we do have some lower prices that I had mentioned here several times before. 114.80 I like on the level onto the downside. We hit that same major level over in here, which the US dollar hit last week, which was the target, by the way, last week, which it easily got. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this. Check mark. That call was bagged last Thursday, and then Friday we had a little bit more of an accelerated down move. So this week here, again, I'm expecting higher prices to start out the week. I don't expect things to get too out of hand. I would imagine they'll probably keep this in a fairly tight range here if they do bring it higher. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I'm not necessarily anticipating them taking out these two highs here, but just they could get a little bit splashy up in here. So just watch for this low here. There is a potential. It's very similar to what I said on the dollar. Watch for this level here, and the low is on this candle. Whoops, if I can get it. 116.90, you can call it. So just watch that level there. There is a chance for price to return back up to there. I would anticipate, though, that they'll probably wouldn't go a whole lot higher than that if we even do get up there. I think the draw is to the downside. You can see we've broken through this consolidation. It's pulling back a little bit, and the likelihood that they're going to bring it back really deep for a deep retracement is pretty slim. It could certainly happen. It is NFP week, but I think the likely trajectory is to the downside. Okay. GbpUsd, we had a very nice down run already, and to the tune of, if we got the high way up here, all the way down, about 800 pips. So nice clean run down, a little bit of a retracement down here, gave us another opportunity about a week and a half ago, but last week really did absolutely nothing. So they were consolidating GBP while they were allowing EurUsd to move south. So there is certainly another little area down here where I think we could see price move down to, especially if we get higher prices on the US dollar. But just bear in mind, though, that this trading in here, it's not as one-sided as what the euro is. So, you know, I think I like this move down here a little bit better than I'd like this move down here. Not to say that we can't get a nice move down south here, but we could see, and I'll zoom in a little bit here, could see a little more upside on on GbpUsd. But I think there is a real strong likelihood that we could trade down to the 126.20 level. We're about 140 pips higher than that. I mean, GbpUsd can do that in a day if it wants to. And then once it hits that level, we'll have to see how much lower they want to go than that. I think the GbpUsD hit a pretty major level here. And just be careful, just be very, very careful as well, too. The whole Brexit thing is really starting to rear its ugly head. I don't remember what the drop dead date was on the Brexit deal. I'm just doing a real quick Google search here as I kind of think of it, but I'll come back to that once it comes up. For some reason, my internet's really slow right now. So it could get a little ugly here going forward. I don't necessarily know, and again, it's they're manipulating this pair so they can run the euro after they ran this thing down here. So I think that it could stay this way for a little bit longer. Looks like we have to the end of the year for the Brexit. I was just kind of reading an article there out of the side of my eye. So we could see just more chop, more consolidation. If the US dollar all of a sudden decides to take a turn, or we get really, really bullish activity and we start breaking through this range here, then that could be the sign that we'll get for it to move this guy lower. But for now, I wouldn't anticipate super low prices on GBP. I think they could just stick it in a range. But watch for this 126.20 level this week. I think there's a real good chance that that one could come down and get hit. I don't want to see price go above 129. well, we'll call it 129.20 to be safe. So we're currently 127.65. So we're right about in the middle. That's what are we, 160 pips or so to this target. And well, here, you know what? Why don't I just do this? Yeah, about 160 pips from that target, and about about the same, about 140 to 150 pips to the lower target. So we're trading right in the middle. And as I say, it could go either way. It's just been chopping sideways all last week while they manipulated euro. So there is a chance they could shoot this thing higher. I think there'd be a lot more resistance trying to get it up there versus going lower. So I like lower to the downside, and only naturally because the US dollar, I think, is going to get pulled up into this range here. So I think GbpUsd will naturally go lower. But so just keep that in mind. It could go 50-50. So if you do trade this, you're going to want to have your stop above 129.20. And I mean, you could certainly take a long to the upside if you want, if you see it breaking above this high here. But I think the better play would be to the downside. But I'm just going to hold off on GBP this week until we get through NFP, and then we'll see where next week brings us. UsCad is getting pulled to the upside very, very nicely. We have a couple of nice highs right in here. We managed to break through this big level right in here. In this area right here, this previous consolidation is a pretty tough range typically to get through. We're seeing a little bit of sideways price action here towards the end of the week, but nonetheless, upwards momentum. And I think the trade on the week is going to be, or for UsCad, is going to be up to 134 and probably 135. I would imagine will probably end up hitting. I just got 134.80 on this level as an easy target, just a sweep above these highs here. I think that's where we're going to end up. So watch UsCad. I think that could be a good trade. Again, as similar with US dollar, how we could sweep below these lows here last Friday and Thursday if we get some downward trajectory. The same goes for UsCad. We could sweep below those lows there. But what I don't really want to see is them sweep below this low here. I'd like to see them stay above this candle body if we can. So the open of this candle comes in at 133.07. I'd like to see price stay above 133.00 if we could on UsCad. But if it does come in there, I would expect a rebalance at 132.60. So basically the highs, this high or that high there. But I think I doubt we'll get that low on UsCad. I think more than likely the play is higher. If we do get a little bit of a retracement, I might look for these lows to get swept, but I think we'll hold off at this open of this candle here, as I mentioned. So looking for higher prices on UsCad, and that leads me into Australian dollar. What did I tell you guys? Beautiful downward trajectory in Australian dollar. I've been watching this thing here for a couple of weeks. I said we're probably going to head down. We got about a 300 pip movement to the downside last week. Beautiful on Aussie. You don't get that type of movement on Aussie normally, and when it happens, it is great to see. I do really like trading this pair, or I have been liking it this year. When it trends really, really nicely, and it's a very easy currency to trade. But when it chops sideways, that's never any fun. We did have some chop, obviously, in August and a little bit here at the start of, at the end of June and start of July. But nonetheless, great pair to be trading. And we swept below these lows here. So I said that's why I had the little target right there. So that is now complete, as you can see. Ran below and ran right back into the highs of these candles, exactly as I mentioned before. So now, again, very similar this week. I think we could see a little bit upside movement on Aussie. Watch this high rate there. I want to see if they have any willingness to get above that. If they do, I think there's a good chance it could do a little more running higher to the tune of 100 pips or so, maybe 150 pips. We're currently trading at 0.70. What is this? I gotta move this guy here. 0.7053. So we could see a little more upside. That's about 100 pips to the upside, okay? Don't want to see it go much higher than that if it even does. It might just leave this whole range open and we could just fall over. But watch this high from Friday. I'd be curious to see if they have any willingness to get above that. If it's just a quick run above and then a rejection lower, or if they want to continue higher. Watch Aussie. I'm not 100% sure on where they want to go. They had such a quick range down that anything's possible. But I do believe that now we've achieved this goal here. I think this is the next target on Aussie. And again, if we get a decent entry, we possibly could have anywhere to 300 to 400 pips to go further on Australian dollar? Possibly. Now, just keep in mind there is a lot of support in this area right here, and so it could be a little bit harder to get this thing down. But I think if the U.S. dollar continues to move higher, it should naturally drop Aussie, as we saw a nice run right here. So very, very possible we could see another drop lower, taking out all of these lows right here, and who knows where we go from there. But that's what I'm watching. Continued downside. If we see price go above 71.50. Level, then I'm going to hold off on any short ideas. But I think if that's the case, then U.S. dollar would probably be dropping, and in which case we could probably target these highs. But I think lower is the way to go this week. I don't necessarily think we're going to get all the way down here, but certainly I think a couple hundred pips, if we do see a bit run up here, maybe getting right underneath here would be a nice target. See these lows right there? That would be a very, very nice target on Aussie if we could get something like that. And but with a 169.20 level, that would be good. Probably 160. I keep saying 0.6900. I think would be a great target on Aussie if we could get that. So I'll leave that on the chart. We'll see if that wants to get run out, and I'll update you again next week on that one. So finishing up really, really quickly here, folks. I'm not going to spend any time on this. Crude oil, we're in a bit of a range here. We managed to drop down and came right back in it here, and we're slamming back into these lows. A lot of resistance up in that area. I am absolutely 100% not bullish. I repeat, I am not bullish on crude oil. I do not think we're going to see higher prices on crude oil this year. I believe we're going to see weaker prices. I'm calling lower on oil, and it's just a matter of time. When are they going to drop this thing? So I'm watching this. We had a nice sell-off here at the start of the month, and then it's just crawling its way back, giving all of the bulls hope, and we sat in a range and it went absolutely nowhere last week. I'm expecting them to run these highs here. I'm going to be looking for that, a quick shot up into there, and then I'd like to see a drop and then sell it. We still have a bit of a gap down here at 37.45 that I'm watching as well too. So keep your eyes on those levels, but I think ultimately these lows down here will get swept and on. And we're going to go lower on oil, but they could leave it in this range for a little while. I mean, look how long we were in this range for. So up until that election, as I say, I think that's where the key is. But just keep in mind, folks, I read an article here, and there's been a bunch of news out on it that China picked up just absolutely stockpiling oil. They're stuffing it everywhere they possibly can, under the mattress, under their pillows, in every nook and cranny to try and hold it, because they were buying it when it was super, super cheap. They were buying oil like madmen down here, and eventually that surplus and stockpile is going to run out once they get back to regular manufacturing. Whether or not we go through another lockdown or not is besides the point, because they're still buying it, and once they go through that, then I think that's when we'll start to see the prices rise. Forecast right now anywhere from first to second quarter of next year. More than likely the signs are pointing to second quarter of next year. So we're holding off on that, but I believe I'll be selling into oil in my demo account, of course, if and when we get a break below here. Okay, so that's all I'm watching for oil. Gold had a nice sell-off last week as well too, early in the week, and then just did absolutely nothing on Thursday and Friday. I'm expecting lower prices on gold as well too. I called 1824, 1820, 1824, somewhere in that neck of the woods is where I'm looking for gold. So we had a nice sell-off to start, and I think we're going to continue this lower into this week and possibly next week. So watch for that on gold, and I'm not doing anything until we hit that level, and then we'll see where we go from there. So that's all I've got for you folks. Watch S&P. I think we've got potential making for another downside momentum in S&P. I don't believe we're going to see prices rally too hard. We could. It is going into the election, and they may be pushing things artificially up there. There's another $1 trillion or so about to get released into the market, so that could certainly prop prices up, or at least, you know, run them in here sideways for a little bit longer. But I think lower is where we're going to go on this as well too. So watch out for that, for all the bulls on S&P, Dow, and NASDAQ. I think there's a little bit more pain for you guys if you're out there. I'd be probably leaning to the bearish side on S&P if it were me trading it, but that's just me. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll be back for another live market review next Sunday, as always. Scratch that. Actually, I am taking a little bit of an extended weekend this weekend. I'll be gone Friday, back Monday, and if I get time to do a review while I'm away, I will certainly do that for you folks. because you know I love doing these things. So it'll come to you Sunday evening if I can get to it. But no promises. It may happen Monday morning, or it may happen Monday evening. Or it may not happen at all next week. I'm not going to put myself to anything. If I can get it done, I will. But just keep in mind, I'm just taking a little bit of a vacation there, and so that's where my priority will be. Not necessarily on the markets next week, but like I say, if I could squeak in maybe even a 5-minute review, I'll try and get that done for you guys from my laptop on the road. But I'm not due back until early next week, so... typically the week review would have passed by then. So we'll see how things happen. If I don't talk to you, have a great week next week and this week, of course. And if I do, I'll see you guys on Sunday. Thanks very much for watching. We'll talk to you then.